How we doing today? Welcome back for another Star Wars book review. Doo 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 doo. Today I'm doing Dark Apprentice, which is the sequel to Jedi Search, also known as the second book of the Jedi Academy Trilogy. If you have not read or don't know anything about Jedi Search, check out my previous video. Before we get started though, I would like to say these videos are intended for super fans who have already read the books and know what's going on here, and people who care about Star Wars but will never take the time to read all the books, as there are many. So, on that note, let's get into it. I have with me Momonadan, because he makes an appearance in this book and he's my favorite alien, so I am very excited to talk about that. I will note though, I did not mention in my last video a couple things that happen in Jedi Search which are important in this novel. So, first of all, Carida is a planet, and it is the location of the Imperial Military Academy. And Mon Mothma and Leia throw a reception to try to ingratiate Carida into the New Republic, and the ambassador of Carida, his name is Fergan, and he is a real piece of work. He's really not having any of it. He's still super loyal to the Empire. He calls the New Republic and all of its constituents rebels still, so he's just, he ain't hip with the times, okay? And he throws a drink in Mon Mothma's face and is basically like, nah, screw you. So that happened. Also, you'll remember Gantoris, the Jason Momoa guy. I said he was from a dying planet, Yul Shah. Well, the New Republic relocated his village to Dantooine. So that happened. Okay. So, Dark Apprentice starts off with so much drama. Actually, this whole book is just drama everywhere. Han and Lando throughout this whole book are like having Sabbat game after Sabbat game for ownership of the Falcon. Like, the Falcon changes ownership between the two of them probably 15 times. Okay, not 15 times, but still, it's a lot, and it's a theme throughout the whole book, so there's some drama. Also, pretty much immediately, the council had decided that the Sun Crusher was too powerful for any system to get their hands on. It was too much responsibility, too much power, so the council decided to plunge the Sun Crusher into Yavin's core. Now, I'm not talking about Yavin 4, for, superfans will know this already. Yavin 4 is where the Academy is. It's where the Rebel base is in A New Hope. It's the fourth moon of Yavin, which is a gas giant, okay? So it's Jupiter, okay? So they had decided to plunge the Sun Crusher into the center of Yavin. Admiral Akbar and Princess Leia are going to Vortex to witness the Ceremony of Winds, which is like an annual or biannual, I can't remember, ceremony that the people there do. They have this Cathedral of Winds, which is like a giant tubular structure, totally tubular structure, and you cover, certain holes, because they're winged creatures, so they fly up and they cover certain holes, and as the wind passes through, it creates this beautiful music. Apparently there's something like this in Seattle. Admiral Akbar and Leia are on their way to check out the Ceremony of Winds as representatives of the New Republic. On the way into the planet, though, the craft catches some turbulence, and Admiral Akbar can't seem to get a grip on the ship. So he ejects Leia out of the ship and flies directly into the cathedral, totally destroying it and killing hundreds of Vortex people, which is a huge catastrophe. So, yeah, so that's a huge problem. at the Jedi Academy, which we remember is on Yavin 4, okay, Luke is training all of his people. Gantoris, of course. Streen, we remember, you know, the balloon guy. Who's like, you know, an older guy. We have Karana T, who is a witch of Dathomir. We have Dorsk 81, who's like a clone alien. And we have Tion, who is not very force sensitive, but she like plays music and researches, you know, all the ancient Jedi and the lore and all of that stuff. So she's like a lightly force sensitive historian, essentially. She like writes music on her little like uke. So anyways, yeah, so he's training all of them. And Gantoris is acting very strangely. He is kind of secluding himself from the rest of the group. He's not sleeping well. You'll remember Gantoris had said to Luke, upon meeting him in the first book, there's a dark man who came to me in my dreams and told me he would teach me, and he ended up being the death of me. He comes to Luke and he says, I know now that you are not the dark man. He has, unbeknownst to Luke, but knownst to the reader, he has actually been in communication with the spirit of Exar Kun, who died on Yavin 4. He was a Sith Lord during the Great Sith War. Exar Kun had died there on Yavin 4, but his spirit is still there, and he is influencing Gantoris. He shows Gantoris how to build a lightsaber, for example, which Gantoris does, and Luke is training all of his students one day, and Gantoris whips out his lightsaber and is like, fight me, I need to know how to train. And Luke is like, I haven't shown anybody how to build a lightsaber yet. How did you manage to do this? But he battles with him anyway. Obviously Luke wins because, you know, he's Luke, and Gantoris is just like brute swinging around trying to... Yeah, so Gantoris has no idea what he's doing. He's just trying to use the brute force situation, which is effective, you know, if you're like, I don't know, a Gamorrean or something, or a Wookiee. After that whole sesh, Luke is just like, yeah, good training, Gantoris. He hands him back the lightsaber and then goes to brood over what could be happening to Gantoris. Right. So, Gantoris is getting weird and kind of turning to the dark side on Yavin 4. The fallout, however, from Akbar and Leia's catastrophe on the planet Vortex comes back to Coruscant, and Turpin, who is another Mon Calamari, he has a giant scar on his head from when he was enslaved by the Empire. Turpin looks over Akbar's ship and is like, yeah, there's nothing wrong with your ship. It's definitely pilot error. So Akbar marches into the council and he's like, let me save you all a bunch of time. I resign. I don't want to be admiral anymore. And he puts his pin on the table and walks out. He decides that he's going to go back to Mon Calamari and meditate and try to find some peace. And he's going to work on his home world and be with his people, because he feels like that is now his obligation, and that's a way that he can give back now, which is admirable, you know, and he's shamed and he wants to go home. I mean, come on, let the guy go home, okay? I mean, Admiral Akbar just keeps getting beat up. It's absolutely insane. I did not cover this. My brief overview of Heir to the Empire, I did not go over this, but he was accused of treason and was like locked in his, you know, he was like basically on house arrest for a little while there, and now... Poor Akbar, man. Mon Mothma, for some reason, so she's the chief of state. I don't know if I had said that before. Mon Mothma is the chief of state. She has been getting sicker and sicker. She appears, she's still coming to all the council meetings and whatever, but she's talking slower and slower. She's looking skinnier and skinnier. She's not doing very well. And so Leia, you know, is trying to be accommodating. She's giving Leia more and more responsibility. So Leia already has a ton of responsibility, and Mon Mothma is just piling it on top of her. but Leia's taking it begrudgingly. Han and Leia and Jason and Jaina are all sitting around the dinner table one day, and they're all having a nice family dinner, and Mon Mothma calls her, and Leia's like, oh, well, this is it. This is ridiculous. I'm tired of having my personal life interrupted. I'm a mother too, you know, and so she marches. She's like, okay, so she goes to talk to Mon Mothma, and she's kind of planning on giving her a piece of her mind when she walks in to Mon Mothma's room to find her on her bed, hooked up to all these machines, surrounded by B2 droids, just looking bad. So Mon Mothma is like, Leia, I'm dying. And then a whole conversation ensues. So Leia comes back to Han, and she's like, dude, Mon Mothma's dying. I don't know what we're gonna do. I have to go get Akbar. So she does that. Now, Admiral Akbar, on his way back home to Mon Calamari. Now, I had mentioned in the last book, Jason and Jaina and their baby brother Anakin in the first book were on a secret planet that not even Leia knew about. Only Akbar and Luke knew about. They're on a secret planet with Winter, Leia's assistant. Jason and Jaina are back on Coruscant now, but baby Anakin is still on Anoth. That's the name of the secret planet with Winter. So Admiral Akbar, well, just Akbar now, stops at Anoth on the way to Mon Calamari because he seems to have a very special friendship with Winter. I'm not sure if it's romantic or not, or if they're just like very good friends. I'm not sure. Can't tell about that vibe. Leia is now, upon the news of Mon Mothma's imminent death, going to talk to Akbar. There she goes. In the meantime, Kip Duran, who is the young man we met on Kessel in the previous book, who is a very, very Force adept. Han has taken a special liking to him. He and Han have kind of like a, sort of like a father-son thing going on, and Han feels bad, like, man, this kid had his childhood stolen from him. The least I can do is show him a good time. So they decide to go skiing. Hit the slopes, man. Han's like, okay. After this is all done, we'll take you to Yavin 4, and Kip's like, okay, that's a good idea. So, Kip is due to arrive at Yavin 4 pretty shortly. Meanwhile, Gantoris, back on Yavin 4, is being commanded by Exar Kun to kill Luke, because you know, to prove your devotion to me, you must kill Luke, or kill one of your other students. You must do something to prove your devotion to me. And Gantoris is like, no, I won't do it. So he raises his lightsaber to strike down the spirit of Exar Kun, and we hear a scream. All of the students and Luke come rushing in, and they find Gantoris' lightsaber and a pile of ash. And Luke just says, beware the dark side. Meanwhile, on Mon Calamari, Leia arrives, and she is greeted by a Mon Calamarian female named Silgal. Silgal shows her to where Admiral Akbar is staying, and Leia tries to convince him to come back to the New Republic, but he's not having any of it. Like, no, Leia, I have a ton of work to do here. The World Devastators, which are a ship, by the way, built by the Empire, and they do exactly what they sound like. The World Devastators destroyed huge portions of my planet. I have a lot of environmental work to do here that I want to focus on. She's like, okay, then let me help you. They stumble across an Imperial probe droid, and surprise, surprise, they accidentally activate it. So there's a brief battle with this probe droid, and then they kill it, deactivate it, and they're like, well, at least nobody's out there listening. But Dala is listening. Oh no, let's not forget about Dala, the crazy, furious admiral who now only has 3 Star Destroyers. She's hiding out in the Cauldron Nebula, just waiting for her moment to strike. She actually destroys the little settlement on Dantooine of people from Eol Shah. Very sad. Very tragic. So she's listening. She gets this little probing peep from the droid, and she says, well, I guess Mon Calamari is our next target. Like, okay, boys, here we go. We're gonna go do some damage. Rah, rah. So they head to Mon Calamari, and they, right off the bat, destroy a city. Right off the bat. So Admiral Akbar, Leia, and Silgal get to the surface, and Admiral Akbar immediately takes one look at the battle schematics and what's going on, and he's like, you know what, I recognize this tactic. This is one of Tarkin's tactics. He used to use it on us all the time. So there's 2 Star Destroyers in the sky right now. One is hiding behind the moon. So send up a bunch of ships to the moon. And everybody's looking at him like, you sure? And he's like, yeah, yo, I'm sure. Send the ships up. And because, in order to stay hidden from the sensors on Mon Calamari, the Star Destroyer had powered down. So it was very quick work for the Mon Calamarian fighters to wipe out that Star Destroyer. So now Daala only has 2. Wow, her force has been halved in, like, not very much time. Not doing so hot, okay? So she's furious. She calls a retreat, whatever. Leia and Silgal are walking among the wounded, excuse me. And Silgal is just kind of passing through all of the wounded and saying, do work on this one. Stop working on this one. He won't live for another hour. Blah, 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 blah. And Leia's like, oh, yeah, this chick has some force in her. Yeah, okay. Back on Coruscant, Han gets the call that there has been an attack on Mon Calamari, and he knows that Leia's there, so he's like, all right, Kip, I'm going to drop you off at Yavin 4. I have to go save my wife. So he drops Kip off at Yavin 4. Luke receives him. Of course, he's excited to train Kip because he knew that he was strong in the Force, but he's still a little freaked out about what literally just happened to Gantoris. So he takes Kip on. It does not take very long to realize that Kip is just above and beyond what the other students are capable of. Things that they are still trying. These other students have been there for weeks, if not months. Things that they're still trying to master after that much time. Kip does it in a matter of days. He's just blowing through these exercises, and he kind of knows it. He's kind of getting a little cocky. So, surprise, 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 Exar Kun makes his appearance in Kip's life. He starts talking to Kip like, well, you're doing so well, and you could be doing so much more. You could be doing so much more for the galaxy. Master Skywalker isn't teaching you all the things that you need to know. The Jedi and their dogma won't teach you half of the things that you could be using to save your friends. And so Kip's like, well, I'm not an idiot. I can resist the dark side, so teach me these things and I'll do with them what I can. So he starts kind of training with Exar Kun and getting all these ideas in his head, you know, kind of just getting more and more resentful of Luke because he feels like Luke is hiding things from him. Wow, sounds familiar, no? Mara Jade, who you may remember from Heir to the Empire, she arrives, starts training with all of them. Luke is giving them a lesson one day, shortly after she arrives, and Kip loses his goddamn mind. He's just like, well, I feel like we've all learned plenty. When can we go finish the Empire? You know, when can we go actually battle the people that we're supposed to be battling and protect the New Republic? Like, why are we here? Why are we not doing what you brought us here for? And Luke's like, you're not ready. You're not even close to ready for all of that. There's just no way. And so Kip, you know, flips a table and storms out. Okay, no, he doesn't flip a table, but he does storm out in a little, you know, huffy temper tantrum. And then later that night when everybody else is asleep, what does he do? He steals Mara's ship and he flies away. I mean, what were we expecting him to do? I mean, geez. He flies off to go to Endor. He wants to go to Endor to talk to, or like not talk to, I guess. He wants to go to Endor to commune with Darth Vader's ashes. He thinks that there's an answer there. He's just feeling compelled to go talk to Darth Vader's ashes. Okay, that's fine. So Kweezu, who was the researcher of the Sun Crusher, remember the Sun Crusher, the weapon that was stolen from the Maw installation in the first book? You know, the solar system killer. Kweezu is under the protection of our good friend Wedge Antilles, because the council feels that she has a bunch of knowledge that Admiral Dala might be trying to steal. You know, she's too valuable, she could get kidnapped, blah, blah, blah. All legit concerns. So Wedge takes her to Ethor, which is the planet of our good friend Momonadon. And he actually greets them and, you know, shows them around Ethor and whatever. And Wedge and Kwee seem to have a little romance going on, which I am all for because she is like cute and naive and blah blah blah, and he's like such a good guy and he deserves everything he wants. What would it be? What would it be? Kwee and Wedge. Team Quedge. Blech. I can't believe I just did that. Kwee is on Ethor with Wedge. Kip, after communing with the spirit or the ashes of Darth Vader, flies back to Yavin 4 and stands on top of one of the Massassi temples, and he, using the Force, pulls the Sun Crusher out of Yavin. Like, okay, like, Luke had enough of a problem pulling an X-Wing out of the swamp, and Kip straight up pulls a ship out of a planet's core. And then he just flies away in it. The spirit of Exar Kun had told him where to find Kweezu, because Kip had decided that she did, in fact, have too much information about the Sun Crusher and all of the super weapons that she had built during her time in the Maw installation, and that knowledge was dangerous. So he snuck into her room on Ethor and pulled the knowledge right out of her head. Ugh. Ugh. So cringy. So cringy. Meanwhile, Han and Leia take Silgal to the academy on Yavin 4. And Luke's like, oh, another student. And he's now, at this point, Luke has lost Gantoris to death. The dark side and then death. Okay. He lost Kip Duran to the dark side. His two strongest students he's lost. So Luke is feeling kind of disheartened. Shortly after Silgal arrives, you know, Luke is getting in contact with Exar Kun. Exar Kun is appearing in his dreams. They're having more and more conversations. Luke, of course, is resistant to him, and Exar Kun's like, all of your students will be mine. Kip was guided after his weird, cringy, tearing memories out of Kweezu excursion. He goes to the Cauldron Nebula, excuse me, because Exar Kun had told him that that is in fact where Admiral Dala was hiding out with her 2 Star Destroyers. So he goes to the Cauldron Nebula, and he uses the Sun Crusher and fires the shot to the closest star in an attempt to destroy both of the Star Destroyers. So the last thing he sees right before he flies away is the flame overtaking the ships. So that's the last thing that we see of him, just flying and feeling like awesome because he thinks that he just destroyed these 2 things. So now he's planning his next strike against the Empire. Okay. And on Yavin, Silgal wakes up one night, you know, the Mon Calamari female, she wakes up one night and she just feels weird. She feels real weird, right? So she goes out into the hallway and all of the other students are out there and they're like, something's wrong, something's wrong. And Streen, the old man, the balloon guy, who hears voices constantly, he's always hearing everybody else's thoughts, is like, I can't hear Master Skywalker. So they go to Luke's chambers, and Luke is just lying there. Like, Silwell goes over to him, and his heart is beating, and he's breathing, but his skin is icy cold, and nobody can feel his presence. And they all agree that his body is there and alive, but Luke is not there. Luke is not there. And the last line of the book is Silwell says, "We are alone now." And that concludes Dark Apprentice. And we are very excited to see what happens in the conclusion in the next video. So stay tuned. Thanks for watching.